Welcome to a Brief History Conspiracy.
This week, cattle mutilation.
So, if you're new to our channel, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and hit that bell notification. It really does help us out. Also, I will just say there will be images of cattle mutilation in this episode, and some of them aren't very nice, so be warned. Right, cattle mutilations. Right, at the end of the video, we're going to talk about new cases that have come up in the last 6 months or so in America, because I genuinely thought this was a 1990s thing, and this had stopped.
No, it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah,
It's continued to go on for a long time. It's just the media coverage is, what's the word? Not interested in recent years compared to perhaps being more interested in the 90s, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose people get bored of these things, but I say I genuinely thought it had stopped. But
yeah,
nope.
Nope.
So I thought this is a bit like I've talked to you before about a bit like crop circles. How it was like it seemed to become fashionable for a bit, and then everyone's talking about it, and you see a lot of documentaries on TV, but then it just sort of stopped. So, or maybe there's just been the powers that be have sort of said stop talking about that.
Maybe. So, or maybe it's just the fickle nature of the human mind and what interests it.
We
and
tend
that's
to get bored of
probably
things, don't we?
people getting bored of it, and therefore if there's no interest in it, people don't publish it.
Yeah. And one of the things we're not going to do today is we're not going to talk about aliens, but we are going to do another episode, because when I started doing the research, when you start looking at aliens, I went down the rabbit hole.
Oh,
so
yes,
unless you want to do a 3-hour episode today, we're just going to focus on the sort of earthly, maybe, explanations for what we're going to for cattle mutilations.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, history. The oldest case of cattle mutilation I could find goes back to 1606 in the court of James I. We're talking like Cromwell time and that sort of thing.
Oliver Cromwell. Okay,
there was like 100 sheep found, and they were all mutilated. And again, this type of thing that we see regularly in cattle mutilations. The lips gone, sexual organs gone, no blood, really clean, almost like laser cut wounds.
Yes, laser cut surgical removal of the genitalia.
Yeah. They always seem to be lying on their left side,
or body
apparently.
organs. Oh, do they? I didn't
left
know
side,
that. Always on the left side.
I think aliens must be a bit like OCD. Go, put it on this left side, damn it! There's generally no clear sign of why the animal died.
No.
And a lot of people argue that there's no tracks around. They would expect, if the animal was dying from like dehydration or something, they'd be stumbling, they'd be... or you'd actually find tracks of the... Oh, well, yeah.
There'd be tracks in from a predator.
Find the tracks of the cow actually getting there would be also nice. But a lot of the time, there's no tracks, almost like the animal has just been dropped from the sky. And that's one of the descriptions that comes up quite a lot. It's just like it's been dropped there. Always on the left side, apparently. So it must be like when you drop bread and it always lands butter side down.
Maybe it's slightly asymmetrical in the cattle in its design, and it's got a slightly heavier left side than right. Possible though, I don't know. I'd have to check into the weight distribution
of a cow.
Around the centre of mass of a cow.
All its stomachs are on one side. Who knew? But no, I don't.
It could be something as simple as that. It's got a bigger stomach on the left than it has on the right, and therefore there's more weight there. I don't know.
I don't know.
I know it's got multiple stomachs, but yeah.
Howard Burgess as well says that 90% of cattle mutilations that he believes are genuine, the animals are 4 to 5 years old.
Okay.
Which that again is statistically odd if this is a natural event.
What, they're all within the same age range? You'd argue that 4 or 5 years is probably then coming out of puberty into adolescence.
It's when they're
It's when they're
most
becoming
fertile,
sexually active.
Yeah, most fertile.
Okay, that's interesting. Especially the fact that the genitalia is quite often removed.
Yeah. I also find this case that in almost all cases there's no blood at all. And the official explanation for that, which we'll talk about in a bit, but is that the insects have eaten the blood.
No.
They're very efficient.
In the rainforest, in the Amazon rainforest, within the tropics, let's say, in South America.
Where there's insects,
where there's big insects, millions of them, lots of different species. I still don't think they would completely clear all the blood from a body that quickly. It just doesn't seem likely.
We've got a few case studies that we'll look at, and that makes it less and less likely that that's possible. But we'll look into it. I've also found a few cases where there was blood left, but it was like a pink colour, which is very odd, and it wouldn't coagulate, or it took days to clot.
Yeah.
They were talking. Yeah.
Metals removed then. Yeah, so the iron, the hemoglobin, the iron removed from the blood.
Copper removed, and very high levels of potassium sometimes. But they're rarer. They don't seem to happen as often.
Okay.
The classic case of cattle mutilation seems to be no blood. That seems to be one of the things.
Which is kind of ridiculous when we don't think that insects could clear it up that quickly. Well, vampires, I hold that more credible than the insects cleaning it up, which says that quickly, which says a lot. I know there are various insect species out there that literally do exist in order to feed off of dead, or maggots, for example. They feed off dead tissue, don't they? And you can put maggots on a wound and it destroys all the dead tissue. But it takes a long time for them to do it because they're tiny insects and they only do a little tiny bit at a time. So it'd be the same with the blood, wouldn't it? If the insects were... So was there like a big swarm of massive mosquitoes that just moved in and went, let's drain it?
But even then, a lot of the blood surely would drain into the ground.
Yes.
Wouldn't it? And the insects aren't going into the ground to get it, but a lot of the time they find there's nothing. There's no blood at all. There's no traces underneath.
The mutilated cattle bodies. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the American history, because this is, I mean, it is in America where a lot of this goes on. A lot of it has been publicised. So, 1975, Senator Floyd K. Haskell, and he demanded the FBI investigate this. He said that there'd been 130 or so mutilations in Colorado. It was becoming an epidemic, and he wanted the FBI to investigate.
Seems reasonable.
They didn't really do a great deal until 1979, when they actually did then do a full-blown investigation with an agent, Kenneth Rommel.
Okay.
And that was basically forced on them. When the FBI spoke to New Mexico police, they estimated that they had about 8,000 cases of cattle mutilations on their books. So, I mean, that's a lot.
So if you take out aliens, if you take out vampires, then you've got 8,000 mutilations.
I think it's vampire cows.
Well, possibly. But if you take out aliens, take out the American military compartmentalised in some kind of involvement, and take out vampires. 8,000 cattle being mutilated. You've got one sick bastard on the run.
Yeah,
going around
it's a murderer.
Mutilating many cattle.
A bloke just running around Colorado with like a lot of cow willies hanging around his neck.
I suppose. Satanic cults is the other.
Now, see, cults have been looked at a lot, and one of the cases we're going to talk about later, they noted that the tag on the cattle's ear was 1313, so they thought, oh well, cult. But then it has been researched a lot, and they can't find any evidence at all. And that would be the sort of thing that actually, assuming the government, I mean, they'd love to blame a cult on this sort of thing.
Oh, of course.
That'd be, okay, problem solved, it's cults. Now, cults, stop doing it. And that'd be, there'd be a couple of arrests, boom.
So what's the difference between a cult and a religion?
Yeah.
You have to be dead to be a religious leader. You have to be alive to be a cult leader.
True. Until you drink the Kool-Aid. And then kill everybody.
Well, no, but that's pretty much how you can define the difference between a cult and a religion. Which is why, what is it? Scientology's now a religion? Because
they won't allow it in this country. We won't allow it to be.
But he's dead.
Yeah, so but we won't allow it to be a religion in this country. They just want a tax break. That's all they want.
But, of course they do.
We'll have Scientology after us now. You're not a religion, you're a cult.
Don't worry, you'll be around for a while. You've amassed billions. The Church of Scientology is very rich.
Yeah, they've done well. I want to join Scientology. I just want to see what happens. This is so off topic now. But there's one in Birmingham. It's only down the road. We could go join, see what it is, and then I'll come back on. Actually, Scientology is brilliant, mate. It's brilliant. And this will become a Scientology channel.
Get Tom Cruise on.
I'll sit there like,
this week's special guest,
awesome.
Tom Cruise.
That would get more views.
Probably would.
Right,
so anyway, moving on.
The FBI investigation by this Kenneth Rommel in 1980 released a 297-page report, and he basically argued in almost all cases it's predators, and there are a couple of cases where it's unexplained, but nothing significant.
What predators that have got
lasers,
laser pointers for teeth?
Yeah, no, freaking laser beams for eyes.
Lasers. I just don't understand how anybody could see the precision in some of the surgical precision in the removal of some of the organs and from these cattle, and look at it and go, that's predatory. It's not. You see teeth marks. You see ripped flesh. There are no predators on this planet that can create
It's
that
the one
kind
where
of...
they have the cut into the flesh, and then the ribs are cut almost identically as well, but really cleanly. I've never seen a predator like with a saw, like cutting through bone.
No.
I know there's the fleshier part of the ribs. The ribs aren't just one clean bone, are they? So some have argued that it's snapped off where it's the fleshy part. So it's like it's almost like plasticky part of the rib, isn't it? Because it's slightly more flexible than the rigid bone.
Okay.
So it's like broke off at that point.
All right.
But still, it's perfectly clean. If it is just that, it looks very strange. With this thing with the FBI though, when they said there was New Mexico police, a Gabe Valdez actually came out and said, well, while the investigation was going on, the numbers seemed to just drop.
Yeah, just dropped off the radar, yeah.
And then Canadian Mounted Police, were saying that their numbers seemed to shoot up all of a sudden. They seemed to get a lot more cattle mutilations just outside the remit of the investigation. It seemed to move.
Which to me implies that there's some kind of compartmentalised military involvement.
Yeah.
Probably from the American government. It's probably not the Canadian government. Let's be truthful. It's probably the Americans messing with cattle in Canada rather than the Canadian
why they're doing
government.
it though, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
If there is something that we don't know going on, that's meaning they have to do this, Canadian government might be in on it. You know, because there are a lot of mutilations happening in Canada as well. A lot of the examples I've got are in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure that to me it seems just like it's overflow from America and more like. But there could be some agreement between the Canadian and the American government on
They
cattle
do agree on
mutilation.
defence and all sorts of things. So if there's
NORAD,
a reason for it,
this is the North American Defence, isn't it? Alliance, and that's actually isn't that Mexico, Canada, and America NORAD?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that iron shield they developed as well is protects all those as well. So
okay.
But if that's in case, that does suggest an intelligence and not sickness, illness, predators, doesn't it?
It suggests an intelligence like us humans. It suggests
So anyway, there's a couple of experiments done, and they were trying to find natural, because there's too many cases to just dismiss it. Like, and one of the arguments we're going to have is that a lot of these times are found by farmers, and the farmers then go, or ranchers or whatever, and they go, this is weird, I've not seen this before ever. These are full-time ranchers, farmers. They've lived on their
farm
whole
cattle
lives
for the last 6 or 7 generations of their family.
Yeah. And they find an animal every so often and go, what the hell is
cattle.
that?
Yeah.
And they're freaked out by it, you know.
Right.
So that should be a big red flag.
That holds massive weight in of itself, really does, because if you've seen dead cattle many times through your life and then suddenly see a dead cattle that looks nothing like any of the other dead cattle that
you've ever seen before, and it scares you. That's when these guys are scared, you know. It's like,
well, that's why they report the mutilation in the first place, is because they can't explain it in their own minds. If they could go, oh, it was a predator,
they would just fill in the insurance claim,
yeah,
and that would be it.
Or buy a new cow if they're not insured. Buy another cow. But yeah, it just, I don't know. It seems too strange to me to be.
But some experiments were done to try to explain this. And what they found was that when a cat animal does die, particularly in very dry, arid areas, the animal will bloat, which we know that from like when humans do as well. It's all the gases inside, they bloat up, and then where there are weaknesses in the skin, they'll tear, and they tear really cleanly. And they're saying that it does look like unnatural, very clean cuts.
Okay. Which I can buy. That does seem plausible. It seems a reasonable. I
can understand that could happen sometimes, and that could be misunderstood for this. I think about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Nick Pope thing, where he says like he does a lot of investigation into UFOs, and he thinks about 5% are.
He thinks are real. The other 95% are misidentified aerial phenomenon.
And I think that's probably a similar thing with cattle mutilation. I'm certain there's a lot of cases that are perfectly explainable.
Okay. Yeah.
They look weird, but they're explainable.
Yeah.
But
and that
what
bloating,
percent is, is it going to be 5%, 10%? God knows.
It's very difficult to give a percentage on that.
Yeah.
Nick Pope's given that 95% based on working in the MOD for 20 years and being in charge of investigating every case.
Yeah.
So he's kind of got the right experience to put a good estimate on percentages.
Exactly. But there are going to be cases of predators. There are going to be cases of other things like this.
Cases of bloating after dying in arid conditions that make it look like it's a surgical.
And then you can have a storm
cut.
or something, or just a decent gust of wind, I suppose, if it's in a dusty area and that all the tracks are gone and anything. So maybe.
Yeah.
But. Right, there are loads of cases like this though. There was I'm going to have to say this woman's name now. How many cases do we have problems with names? Why can't we just have Smith?
I don't. What was it?
Go on then, go for it. Karen
Farquhar Hansen.
Karen Farquhar Hassan.
I was right first time, was I?
Farquhar Hassan? That's not a name. Anyway, and Louis Delgado. Okay. Now, they reported, they were Canadian, they were in Calgary, near Calgary. This was 2015. And they found an animal, Farquhar Hassan. What'd you call me? They found an animal, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, turned up in their red thing with the hat. Mm-hmm. And they basically said, yeah, your animal's bloated, it's split on, and they came up with this this reason, and they said then there's predators that have eaten the lips and everything. And then they said, well, we saw the animal alive yesterday, and we found it dead today like this. How did it bloat and get eaten that quickly? And the Canadian Mounted Police went, I don't know.
Yeah, that was probably his exact response.
But that happened within a 24-hour period. There's no way that is bloating or even potentially a predator that quickly, that clean. And the blood was gone. Again, this was one of those cases. There was no blood, no sexual organs, lips gone. I think the eyes were gone in this case as well.
Now, I know birds sometimes peck out eyes. Like scavenger birds will come and take the eyes out of dead animals. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if the eyes were removed. But that's not really like surgical precision. Something could peck in at the eye and take the eyes away, and you're left with the void. Which is in no way like any surgery. It's other things that, like removing the lips. Yeah.
Heart.
Precisely. Heart so that you've only just removed around the actual lip line. That's pretty difficult for a predator to do without...
Generally speaking as well, predators don't eat the heart. It's very tough
or lips.
muscle.
Do they eat lips?
Yeah, because it's soft.
I suppose it's soft tissue, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
that's what I mean. That's why they wouldn't necessarily go for heart. It's even though it's quite high in iron and all this sort of thing, it's quite a tough muscle.
It's quite tough, yeah. It's quite a tough...
They would eat everything else first anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, but... So earthly explanations for this. Basically, we're going with government.
The American military's been up to a lot of shady things over the years. It's been proven to be up to some of them, so I can't discount the American government's involvement in some kind of compartmentalised
basically got to look at
military organisation.
And there's obviously the black helicopters. They get seen a lot, you know. So there's over 300 cases in some books and things and reports I've read. The 300 cases of black helicopters being seen in an area, and then the next day they find mutilated cattle. There are several cases. There's 1979, there was black helicopters seen in a region. There was then, this is Dulce, New Mexico, there was then 16 cattle went missing within about a 3-day period. There's a case in Cache County, Utah in 1976, where police actually approached 2 men that were with what they described as a blacked out military helicopter. Okay. There was a heated argument between the 2 men. So the police were saying, "What are you doing here?" And the other guys were saying, "Well, do one. You know, we're official business or whatever." There were then no cases of cattle mutilations in that region for 5 years, which does tend to suggest they were caught with their pants down. Yep. So, and then sort of thought we better not hang around Utah for a bit.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, I'd agree with that. That seems very, very plausible.
So, but we'll see these. I have to ask, why would the US government why won't they just buy cattle if there's some reason why they're doing experimentation or something? Why would they take them in this way? I don't.
But why would they do the experimentation? If it's all compartmentalised parts of the American military that are involved in these cattle mutilations, why would they do it? Why would they mutilate these cattle out in the open? Why wouldn't they just take these cattle into secure military premises and do the experiments there?
Yeah, and why are they then dumping the cattle back where they found them? Yeah. They could just take the cattle and then incinerate them.
Afterwards.
The only thing I can think of is they're doing something really, really illegal. I mean, it would have to be, like, properly illegal. There's one bloke, a Colin Keller.
I'm trying to think what they could be doing. I'm trying to. My mind's getting 10 to the dozen now. What are they doing?
Exactly.
What are they doing?
There's a Colin Keller who says it's to do with mad cow disease. He's researched many cattle mutilations, and he can see spikes in when mad cow disease sort of, because obviously that disease has spikes levels of those. There seems to be more cattle mutilations when there are cases of mad cow disease. But again, they wouldn't need to do that. They would go in with whatever the vet version of the CDC is. It might actually be the CDC who would take responsibility for that, or the Environment Agency or something, and they would just seize cattle that they needed to test or whatever. There's no... I don't see why they would do it this way.
No, it does seem very strange, doesn't it?
To talk about aliens for 1 second, though, if it was aliens, would the American government sort of be maybe trying to figure out
what they're up to. So they're not doing the mutilations. The helicopters are there after the cattle's been mutilated to see what they've been up to.
Or if they know where the aliens are, they might even be trying to catch them in the act. But they're trying to figure out what the bloody hell the cattle mutilation thing is, just as much as we are. Okay. Maybe I've been thinking about this for about a week, and I cannot think of a reason why, if this was an earthbound situation, why they would do it. Why they wouldn't just take the cattle, put it on a truck.
No, I can't think of why the military would. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
Even if they were doing something massively illegal, you would just set up a company.
Yeah, but you do it under the cover of a private premises.
Yeah, private thing. You buy cattle. You just buy them. Yeah. And then take them back to a farm and do whatever you want to do.
I'd be doing it in one of the underground levels at Area 51.
There's lots of places you could do. You wouldn't have to hide that much.
You know what I mean? There's so many deep underground military bases in America now. They could be doing it anywhere underground with no one's knowledge.
Exactly.
you know Resident Evil, where they're messing about, obviously, with the T-virus deep underground. Yeah. I think America's already doing that kind of stuff.
Oh, I think they're doing worse.
And China's probably doing that as well. Who accidentally releases something evil first? Good question. But it'd probably be one of them. Well, it's either going to be the Russians, the Chinese, or the Americans. It'd be one of the three of them, my guess is.
Well, that's the conspiracy theory about the coronavirus, isn't it? That's something that's gone out because it was being messed with. It's not quite something I don't quite follow that sort of thinking, to be honest. I think diseases happen, they mutate, that's how these things happen. And if it was something they were messing with, it would have a higher kill ratio than 1%.
Yes.
But that's a theory. People
they're
with tinfoil hats
saying that
think
in
about
order
these
to
things.
kill the most people, you don't always want the highest fatality rate. You want the highest infection rate with a moderate fatality rate.
Well, you want the fatality rate to kick in later, don't you?
Yes.
You want this disease to spread.
To spread rapid, and then it kills everybody off after it's spread rapid.
That's basically the only reason Ebola hasn't killed millions, because when you get it, it kills you really quickly. Yeah. So it burns out really fast because the virus just can't spread because it just kills everyone. If ever that thing had like a 3 or 4 week gestation period, it would kill millions. But yeah. So, as an earthbound explanation. Well, 2 questions then.
Go on.
Right. First of all, as far as you're concerned, are cattle mutilations a thing we should be worried about?
Well, they're intriguing. It's not going to make me lose any sleep tonight. I'll say that much.
But sod cows. But if the aliens don't cut them up, we will and make burgers. So why are we even talking about it?
They're getting curbed one way or the other, aren't they? It doesn't really matter, does it? No, I think it's a difficult question.
It's but it's why would somebody do it? Should we be worried about that if somebody is doing this, alien, earthbound, or whatever?
Yes.
Why are they doing it?
Yeah,
that's maybe what we should be worried about.
Yeah, why it's being done.
Why it's being done the way it's being done.
Because we can't really figure out any reason that any military or any earthbound reason would do it in that manner. It doesn't make sense. But then that only leaves one option left, really. Back to the aliens. And I believe it's far more likely that they're investigating this particular bovine species that we've domesticated, make a lot of food from, dairy products, meat.
They might be trying to figure out why are we. There's go back and go onto Netflix and watch the Cowspiracy.
Yes.
Thing, and they're basically saying that we're cutting down the rainforests for grazing land,
farming land for cattle.
These cows generate more greenhouse gases than all of our cars put together. They actually one of the things the Cowspiracy.
Isn't it even more than the whole transportation?
I think it might be. They basically said we could either, if we removed all the cars tomorrow, the greenhouse effects would be reversed within about 50 to 60 years. If we got rid of all the cows, it'd be reversed in 30 years.
So what would you
I mean,
rather
cows are
have?
actually killing us really, really
A
quickly.
car or a burger?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what?
So the aliens might be coming down and going, what is with this animal that they're definitely killing themselves over? They're destroying their entire planet over this cow. Why?
Let's investigate. Let's go take its organs, figure out what's going on.
Maybe
We'll take some DNA samples, or maybe they like it. Maybe they like eating it. Maybe they want to.
Yeah, but they're only taking the sexual organs. So that means they just like eating cow penis.
Well, no, but the reason that they're probably removing the sexual organs is probably related to reproducing that animal back on their own planet. If they're visiting us from another planet around another star that doesn't have that type of species. That, do you not think that'd be my argument for the genitalia but surely you wouldn't need the whole genitalia for that. You could just harvest some DNA in a test tube and that.
Saying that we're going to talk about aliens in this episode. We've talked about it for 5 minutes, but
sorry,
I think
it's difficult not to lead it that way.
It's because we're talking about the earthbound
reasons,
and the earthbound reasons don't make sense. And that's the problem. I can't think of a scene.
I suppose for military, the earthbound reasons don't make any sense. You could maybe argue cults.
Cult.
Maybe. Yeah. But is there I don't know enough about cults. Is there any kind of ritual sacrifice of that requires certain parts from a cattle?
I mean, I know
in some of these cults.
Americans
I really don't know.
love a cult. There's loads of cults in America, and that's fair enough. But this many? We talk about the newest cases. So,
yes.
September 2019 at Hampton, Oregon. There's a ranch, a Stephen Roth. Right, he owns the ranch.
Yep.
One of his ranch hands went out in the morning and found a mutilated cow. Right, it had no udders. Its tongue had been removed. Its blood was gone. Its heart was missing. And there's no explanation for its death. Initially, they thought maybe dehydration, but it was actually only found a couple hundred yards from a water source. That's why the ranch hand was actually out there. He was checking the water sources.
Okay.
He'd been there the day before, and there was no cow. He'd come the next day, cow.
Okay. Right.
No marks, no footprints, no anything. They're 45 minutes from the nearest paved road, so it's a pretty
remote location.
Yeah,
very remote.
There is no explanation for this that I can make sense of. The predator thing doesn't really make sense. The main thing being, a predator could eat the tongue, eat the udder. Those sort of things over in a night. There is no way insects or anything else ate all the blood
overnight
in a 24-hour period.
No, I don't
Not
believe that.
a chance. It didn't dry. It didn't drain away because there'd be signs of that. It was just gone. And again, they described this as that it was like the cow had been dropped out of the sky.
I suppose if weather, heavy rain could wash away the blood. So you'd still expect to see traces, wouldn't you?
It would still be there. It would just be in a big red stain around the animal.
But it depends
a
how...
lot of it would still be in the animal.
Severe rainfall and flooding could possibly...
In a 24-hour period?
You would have to coincide perfectly.
There would have to be a flood. But then again, they would have known about that, though, wouldn't they?
Then they would have known about that.
And this cow's been washed in from somewhere else.
Somewhere else, exactly, yeah.
But they didn't know about it.
And the fact that he was out checking the water sources, if it had been raining heavily, would he have been out checking water sources?
No, he wouldn't need to, would he? Because
he'd know they would have been replenished, wouldn't he, overnight?
And this is interesting because it's only a few miles away from this Sylvie's ranch, which a year earlier, 5 cattle
were mutilated.
The ranch owner of that ranch has actually put out a $25,000 reward for any information that would lead to
successful arrest.
There's no leads. Nobody knows what happened, and that's 5 animals. So this is something that's still going on today, and we still have no leads. We don't know what is happening, and it seems to me that ranchers have got enough crap to deal with nowadays without dealing with this as well. They're not doing it to themselves.
No.
They ain't claiming an insurance claim if they're saying that the animal's been mutilated.
Why would they do that? Surely it could just go missing and they could have sold it to somebody else and then make the insurance claim. And then you're getting paid out twice for the same cattle.
Yeah, it'll make the insurance claim harder, not easier.
If you're going to commit insurance fraud, do it well.
Particularly if you're then saying, if you're then saying we don't believe this was a predator.
Yeah. No, the ranchers aren't doing it themselves, and again from the fear of the ridicule point, these ranchers are probably very hesitant to come out and even mention these cattle mutilations, except for the fact that they can't explain them.
One of the really terrifying things about the Sylvia's ranch, particularly in these 5 animals, the ranch hands were saying that scavengers, birds, predators wouldn't go near the corpses.
Right, which kind of rules out the entire scavenger-predator argument.
But also, what do those animals know we don't?
Yeah. What do they know that's messed with that cattle that means they no longer think that it's a viable food source?
Yeah. And we're talking about, like an area where there isn't a lot of food. So
it's almost like when there's like an earthquake or like a little mini erupt from a volcano, and all the wildlife just goes woof and moves away from
the day before, sort of thing. They just know something's coming and they just leg it
and clear the area. It's almost a bit like that, isn't it? And you do get that, I think, more often than just with this one particular cattle mutilation incident. I think this will be a common theme across many.
Next episode, we will go full bore off-world explanations for cattle mutilations.
Which weirdly seems more
plausible
than the earthbound explanation.
It actually makes more sense. So so thank you for watching. We will see you next week, where we'll have more cattle mutilations. That thing with Cowspiracy, one of the things they talk about is, why the hell do we drink milk? It's a produce that is designed to make cows, little cows,
infant bovine,
grow big really quickly.
Yeah.
And we pour it down our necks. It's full of hormones and all sorts of things, and really high in cream, and we smash it down our necks like I say. It's ridiculous. Most people are. So a lot of people are basically allergic to it or intolerant towards it because it's not good for us.
Exactly. Lactose intolerance, the intolerance to the sugars contained within milk, is going through the through the
our
roof
bodies
in
are catching up.
today's world, isn't it? Yeah.
I think generally they're more evolved than us. They're evolved, going, stop drinking this crap. It's really not good for us. But we smash it on our breakfasts. It doesn't actually make any sense. So maybe the aliens are going, why are they doing this? Let's take another and have a test.
They're only supposed to drink their own breast milk from their mother for the first few years. Then they're supposed to move on to solid foods. Please like and subscribe.
Cattle mutilation fun.
Oh yeah, week after we'll be mutilating cattle.
Yeah, this isn't one of those episodes that I've got a genius idea for an experiment. It's like, let's get a cow.
Let's see if we can remove a cow's.
Yeah, the wife was unhappy enough when she turned on when we were burning stuff in the garden. She'll be really unhappy if I've got a cow in the garden.